Hey everyone, Alex is coming at you with another video. Today is going to be my honest opinions on the first 5 episodes of Ultraman Gate and just really a retrospective podcast video. So real quick, I just wanted to ask the viewers if you guys want me to do episode reviews, like review podcast of each episode pretty much. I know that I've missed episode 2 and episode 5, but if you want me to go back and review all those episodes individually and then consistently review each episode that comes out each week from there, comment down below if you want me to do that, or if you want me to wait for 3 to 4 episodes to come out and then just do another retrospective video where I pretty much just give my thoughts on the progress of Ultraman Geed overall. Then you can comment down below, but otherwise I just want to know what you guys think. But today is going to be a retrospective video, so if you want me to go back and review each episode individually, just comment down below and I'll probably do that. But overall, I think Ultraman Geed is a pretty good series. Visually, it's really great because of the newer generation shows that have the higher budget and better effects. Objectively speaking, they do have higher budgets. So I feel like Ultraman Geed, visually, on a visual scale, is really great in my opinion. And some other things that I wanted to talk about was just overall my thoughts on the series so far. I feel like Ultraman Geed borrows too much from Ultraman Orb with the whole fusion concept, and Ultraman Geed uses a fusion device just like Ultraman Orb does. I mean, even both Ultra starter forms have the original Ultraman in them, ironically. Ultraman Orb Specian's Hyperion form has the original Ultraman, and then Ultraman Geed's primitive form has the original Ultraman. So when you really look at that, the original Ultraman is pretty much like the starter Ultraman for every Ultra Fusion, which I find to be pretty interesting. I feel like the characters are pretty interesting. They're the kind of characters that I find pretty interesting because they have this quirky and somewhat goofy dynamic despite them being serious. Every character, in my opinion, is really special. You have, what's his name? Riku. Riku, in my opinion, is a really neat character. At first, I wasn't too sure about him because his actor is from the movie Revenge of Belial, where he played as that young kid. And then looking at Riku now, originally, I thought that he just looked really young. I just didn't feel him being a very powerful Ultra host. But as the series has progressed, I have definitely gotten used to the transition from Guy to Riku, and I think he's a pretty decent host so far, or human form, because apparently he is the human form of Ultraman Geed, which I still find that to be odd, just because of his personality. You usually expect the Ultra forms to be a bit more serious because they're the actual Ultras, but I guess Geed is a special case. I want to talk about Raiha, the female character with the sword. I find her to be interesting somewhat. People tell me in my videos that Raiha is pretty much a female jugless juggler, and I can kind of see why, because they both use swords. But outside of that, I don't really see much of a similarity between the two characters besides that. I mean, I feel like, she's like a swordsman that goes around wanting to fight monsters, and she's fought off against Dada and such. But outside of that, I feel like Raiha is a pretty useless character because she can't really fight any giant monsters. She's just a human form character. I feel like maybe if she was like an alien or something, maybe she would have more use to her, but otherwise just being a standard human who could die by any circumstance, like a normal everyday person in the Japanese city, just makes her feel pretty awkward to me and just kind of useless because she can't really do much to really help Ultraman Geed or Riku, except in some scenarios, like for example Dada, but even then I'm pretty sure Riku didn't need help with. But I mean, I think she's a pretty decent character. I mean, she's pretty serious, and they give her a lot of outfits. They give her like the standard outfits with like the jacket and the red shirt. And then they give her one where she's like a nerd. So I'm pretty sure fans like that. Apparently, I think they like that. And then the next character that I wanted to talk about was Ultraman Zero, because Ultraman Zero's in the series, and he's a mentor for Ultraman Geed. Now, a lot of people had a problem with this, but I personally had no problem with this. And the reason for this is because Ultraman Belial is the main villain, and Ultraman Zero is Ultraman Belial's rival. So I can perfectly understand Ultraman Zero having a legitimate reason to appear in the series. Plus, it's in the Showa universe, so why not? since Ultraman Zero exists in the Showa universe, so I don't see any reason why not to have Ultraman Belial, because Ultraman Belial and Zero have had such a dynamic for the past several years. His human form, or his human host, in my opinion, it's pretty interesting the somewhat dynamic that they have, where 1 second the human host is nerdy. He's very awkward and nervous whenever he interacts with people. Then you hear the Zero's transformation sound effect, and then Zero pretty much takes over the human body, like he's possessing him, I guess. Then he becomes super serious and super arrogant and cocky. And then the other character that I wanted to talk about was Alien Shadow. I literally forgot this guy's name, but the Alien Shadow is very serious. Similarly, I feel like Alien Shadow is a pretty interesting character because he's an alien, so I feel like he has more dynamic. And I hope they go more into his backstory in future episodes, because I would really like to know more of his motivation and such. And yeah, I just think he's a pretty interesting character. I find him interesting because he talks telepathically. He doesn't open his mouth, just like Alien Shadow in the Ultra 7 series doesn't open his mouth. So I find it pretty odd, but somewhat interesting that he does that the same way in his human form. So yeah, I think he's a pretty good character, I guess. And then I wanted to talk about Moa, which is the female character who wears like the Shin Godzilla outfit. She looks like she's straight out of Shin Godzilla. For some reason, whenever she falls over and hurts herself, I get amusement out of that because I like seeing this character get hurt for some reason. I don't know, it's just something that I have, it's just like she trips over, she gets herself really badly hurt, and suddenly Ultraman Gi becomes 2 times more interesting for me to watch at that given moment when nothing big is happening at that time. I think Moa is funny. She's awkward at times where she would kind of run around. Reminds me of a little girl, I guess. She like pets Raya's head. If you guys, since people have been kind of asking me in the comment section which one I thought was better between Moa and Raiha, I honestly don't know because they're both female characters. So I don't think either of them is better. I think Riku's the best one because he's like the youngest. So yeah, but more characters to talk about. I mean, I guess that's it. I mean, there's the shop owner. I honestly don't know what to say about the shop owner because he's just a friend of Riku. Again, he doesn't really serve much purpose to the plot, like at all. I mean, honestly, I talked about Raiha not serving much of a purpose, but she serves more of a purpose than the shop owner ever will because he's just there. Oh, I mean, I don't even understand his existence, honestly. The last but certainly not least, we have Pega, who is pretty much the alien sidekick of Riku. ADF Stuff has already told me this, but he stated that he would definitely like to see the original or more evil and malevolent version of Pegasa return. And I would honestly really like to see that because that would provide a very interesting dynamic, in my opinion. And, Pegasa really needs to return as a threat because here's a problem that I just have with the newer generation stuff, especially with Ultraman Ginga. Lots of people tell me that they love Pega. They're like, oh, he's so cute, he's funny, he's nice, he's adorable. And then, although I can enjoy Pega for the fact that that he has all those attributes, and for the fact that it's Pegasa returning for the first time since Heisei Ultra 7, if I was to look at it from a non-biased standpoint, I would say that Pegasa's character has been somewhat ruined, just like Icarus's character from Ultraman Ginga, because of the fact that when you look at the original Pegasa was an alien sent to Earth to blow it up for his city. Now, when you compare that alien to very serious and kind of political, the political sense that the original Pegasa had in Ultra 7, in terms of the allegories that he presented, and then you compare him to Ultraman Geed's Pega, it's two completely different characters. So I definitely hope that a more menacing Pegasa does return to kind of redeem the character and maybe add more onto the race. Because again, that would be really interesting because Pega is a different alien of himself, but the Pegasus did have their own city, Pegasus City, so I can see more than one just existing since the city was blown up, that doesn't mean that they can't just shoehorn in another city for the episode of Ultraman Geed if they ever did one with him. So yeah, but overall, I would really just like to see a serious Pegasus return, just so I can know that Super Raya has confidence to make classic aliens evil again and not just cute characters that you see run around as jokes. Really, just overall, I think the characters are nice. They're the kind of characters that I would definitely watch if I wanted to watch a relaxed series. And by relaxed, I can't really define this term, but it's, say for example, you're watching an anime and it's a really kickback anime. It's not too serious. It presents itself in a somewhat serious manner, but it's not grim and dark and over the top. It's very calmed but somewhat mature. I can't really say this too well because I'm not good with film terms, but it's the characters in Ultraman Geed are the kind of characters that I can kind of sit back, relax, maybe have like something to drink, and I could just watch them interact with each other because I find them somewhat interesting in terms of their character interactions. So I will say that Geet's characters, they're not dull, but they're in fact very colorful and charismatic in terms of the actors' portrayals of them. So that's something that I definitely give a huge plus to Ultraman Geed for. In terms of the monsters look great. I mean, I don't think the time that we ever had a bad looking monster was the Showa era. But overall, I like the monsters that they have. However, similar to Ultraman Orb and Ultraman X, Ultraman Geed adds more fault to the power and consistency of Ultras. For example, if you look at the very first episode of Ultraman Geed, the main threat was Skull Gamora. This fusion between Gamora, the Prince of the Monsters, one of the strongest Ultraman monsters ever, next to Red King, another very powerful brute-like monster. And Ultraman Geed defeats him in the second episode in his primitive form. But then when Ultraman Geed comes across a monster like Ella King, then he has a hard time against Ella King and needs to use a more powerful form just to defeat Ella King. And when you really take that into consideration, that means Ella King is also more powerful than Darklops Zero, which Darklops Zero was one of the most powerful imitation Ultras just because he can match the power of Ultraman Zero, which is already an established powerful Ultra. So when you really look at that, Ella King in that logistical sense is stronger than Darklops Zero and Skogomore, which I still find to be odd, just in terms of the threats that they present. And the same thing with Earth. Oh, wait, not Earthron. I'm sorry, Arstron. That's right, guys. I'm doing the same joke again that I did in my Ultraman Orb, the Orja Saga review, where I made this whole big deal about Arstron. Because Earthtron or Earthron from Ultraman Jack Episode 1 has been officially renamed to Arstron. Ultraman Wiki is really having a lot of fun changing the names to our favorite heroes and characters, from Kamoa to Chimera to Katana Zoa to Katana Thor. Anyway, so I just thought the monsters were good. I feel like Ultraman Geed, similarly to the past Ultra shows, really hurts with the power consistency of certain powerful monsters being dwarfed down by more weaker standard monsters that Ultras fight, which isn't really a bad thing because it shows standard monsters how powerful they can be, but then it makes strong monsters look weak in their own respect as well. So it isn't really a problem with Ultraman Geed, but it's more of a problem with the way how Super Riot Production scripts its monsters. The second thing that I just wanted to say is that overall, I feel like the series is pretty good. I'm really just rambling on. And if you guys want me to script things better, then I'll probably keep that in mind. But if you guys just like to hear a person just talk off the top of their head, then I'll probably just stay true to that way of videos and podcast. What I wanted to say next was that I wanted to talk about the villain, Ultraman Belial, aka Kai. Kai, don't you mean Caillou? Oh, that was really funny, wasn't it? But anyway, Ultraman Belial, in my opinion. Now, this is going to be very controversial, but as much as I like Ultraman Gate, as much as I think it's a fun series, fun, I've been seeing that term being used a lot by Ultraman fans. Like, oh, this is a fun song, this is a fun series, this is a fun movie, this is a fun time. But in my opinion, Ultraman Belial as a villain in this series is really weak. I feel like he isn't even a threat to Ultraman Geed. The only reason why he is a threat is because Ultraman Geed or Riku and his main characters can never seem to find him. And there was even one moment where Riku runs into Kai. Of course, he doesn't know it's Belial, but it's still the principle, the fact that Belial is really just hidden a lot of the times from our main heroes. And just looking at Belial, I'm gonna go into a short retrospective. When you look at Belial, Mega Monster Ultra Galaxy Legend, he's one of the most powerful beings. You know, he took out all the Ultra Brothers, he destroyed the Ultra Garrison, he froze M78. When you look at Revenge of Belial, he had his own army of aliens. He had a Kaiser form with his cape, and he was very powerful to the point where he could take on Zero in close combat. And then you had Arc Belial, which was even stronger, pretty much this giant crystal monster after he absorbed those green planetary crystals, and he became powerful enough to destroy a planet. Now, after Mega Man Ultra Galaxy Legend and Ultraman Zero Revenge of Belial, I feel like in Ultra Zero fight, that's pretty much where Belial shrunk down in terms of significance, relevance, and power and strength. Because in that series, Ultraman Belial had a group of aliens instead of an army, instead of an entire army of monsters and aliens. He only had 5 beings that served him, and that was the Darkness Five, which consists of characters like Mephiles and Hippolyto, characters that are much weaker in comparison to someone like Ultraman Belial. For example, Hippolyto can take on a few Ultras, but that doesn't mean he can destroy the entire Ultra Garrison or take over M78 by himself. So when you look at Ultraman Belial in this series, real quick, Ultraman Zero manages to take him on, he even gains Armored Darkness form, but really it feels like Belial's much weaker because he loses in his standard form at the end of the series, then he gets cast away by Shining Zero. Then you have Ultraman Ginga S, where Ultraman Belial is just an Intel dummy. He's not even the real Belial, but it's still the fact that Belial at this point is being used by a Telger, which is a being that is probably weaker than him. And then you have Ultraman Orb, which pretty much turned Belial into a good guy. So I'm not even sure what to think of Belial at this point. At this point, Belial feels really boggled down. He feels like a Power Ranger villain to me. And I'm not sure that's really a good thing, but the reason why I feel like he's a standard Power Ranger slash Super Sentai villain is because these villains from the shows are like the human-like villains, and they summon monsters every episode to fight the hero, but they never directly confront the hero. And I feel like that's what Belial's doing. Sure, he might have fusion monsters, but Ultraman Belial is so powerful in Mega Monster Ultra Galaxy Legend that if you were to tell me that this guy needs fusion monsters just to fight another Ultra that's probably weaker than him, I would probably think you're crazy. And then it turned out that that became true with Ultraman Geed, where one of the most powerful Dark Ultras, potentially the most powerful Dark Ultra of all time, now needs a little fusion cap, and now he needs the Geed Riser to transform into fusion monsters, and it just feels really bad in my opinion because sure I like the concept, but I feel like it just doesn't feel right to me because as a fan of Belly, I'm not the biggest fan of him, but just a person that's been there with him since Mega Monster Ultra Galaxy Legend, I feel like this isn't the same Belial that I knew back in 2009 when I watched Mega Monster Ultra Galaxy Legend. Well, actually, I didn't really watch the movie in 2009, but it just doesn't feel like the same Belial. It just feels like this is a completely different character because now you have this human form. You have this character using the Gate Riser, which is not even his own device. He doesn't even have the Giga Battleizer anymore, and he doesn't even have an army of Darklops like he did originally in the Revenge of Belial movie. It just feels like Belial went from being one of the strongest beings in the Ultraman roster to just being a casual guy in a suit that runs around the Japanese city with his Geed Riser and summons a monster every now and then. And I just never thought Belial would be so underwhelming. I just kind of expected more from Belial after hearing that he would return. But I mean, it's not that I hate the concept, it's not that I hate Kai or anything like that, but it just feels boggled down for Belial's character. It feels like Belial doesn't have that sheer strength. And the reason why I keep on saying this is because Belial has the power of Ray Blood, the most powerful Ultra being in the universe. Yet he just doesn't feel like he's the most powerful being anymore, and I just kind of feel bad. Anyway, enough of that. Enough of talking about Belial. It's not that I hate Belial at all. I mean, I think the character is pretty neat in Ultraman Geed, but it just doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel like much is at stake whenever I see Belial do something. It doesn't feel like there's much of a consequence. When I looked at Belial, it felt like the entire universe was at stake in terms of the safety and survival of every other Ultra Brother that was on M78 when it was frozen. Now when I look at Ultraman Geed, it just feels like a small population, a small city is at stake, which isn't really on that grand scale anymore. Even then, Kai reminds me too much of Jugless Juggler. He walks around in his human form as a well-dressed, mannered person, and he uses a device which is pretty much the exact same as the hero's device to summon monsters or to transform himself into said fusion monsters, just like Jugless Juggler did. And it won't be probably until close to the final episode that he reveals his true form, similar to how Jugless Juggler fought in his Majin form. So I just really don't know what to think about this new Belial. It just doesn't feel the same, and I'm sorry if you might disagree. If you totally disagree, I would like to know why you disagree. Or if you even agree with me, then I'm glad that I'm not the only one that thinks this. But that's honestly one of my weakest points for Ultraman Geed. For me personally, at least. You don't have to agree with what I'm saying. You can completely disagree, and I wouldn't care. But yeah, overall, I just wanted to talk a little more before I end off this podcast because I'm pretty sure it's been going off long enough. I like the soundtrack. I really like the soundtrack. If you guys know, I uploaded the transformation theme. It's probably my favorite theme from the soundtrack. Every time Riku pulls out his capsule and he pulls out the Geed Riser, they play the dun 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 dun. I'm just like, man, this is so cool. I feel like I'm watching such an action-packed Ultraman show. Honestly, one of the most redeeming factors of the soundtrack, and then you see the Ultras fight with that amazing soundtrack. It just feels really inspiring, and even the opening song, in my opinion, is really nice. I got a lot of complaints that people wish it was longer, but I honestly don't mind the length. I'm just glad that I get to listen to something so amazing like that. And yeah, the soundtrack is really great in my opinion. I don't think a lot of people have complained about the soundtrack. The sets are really nice. I'm glad that Ultraman Geed started off at night. When I saw the night battle, visually it felt amazing. I'm glad it wasn't like Godzilla 2014 because when I look at Godzilla 2014, there's so much smoke and fog and debris that I can barely see the monsters. But when I look at Ultraman Geed, they made a nighttime fight look visually crisp. Especially on Super Raya's channel where you get to see it in the best quality possible, where it just looks so visually impressive in the nighttime battle. And it felt like I was watching Ultraman Leo with the battle in the water with the Gillis brothers and Ultraman Leo. So it definitely brought a lot of great aspects to it. And some other people have told me that they like the fact that Ultraman Geed doesn't feel super powerful. I feel like Ultraman Geed is a pretty good Ultra because he isn't the most powerful Ultra, but he's learning because the fact that Riku Asakara is such a young protagonist makes him very relatable to younger audiences. For example, me, I guess, how you can't always be the best. You can't always be at the top, but you have to start from somewhere and become better and better as everything progresses within your life. And I feel like that's a really good message that I got from Ultraman Geed. For me personally, at least, I don't know what message other people got from Ultraman Geed, though. Um, but yeah, I mean, I just feel like the characters are pretty neat. The characters, in my opinion, are really some of the best parts about it because they have a lot of serious and funny moments, and I really like seeing them interact with each other. Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like the cast has really good chemistry, and that's something that I really liked about Ultraman Geed. However, when I look at Ultraman Orb, I feel like the characters had some chemistry, but when you look at Guy Kieran, I felt like he was so serious that he was not even concerned about the Something Surge people. And he was just kind of like, why do I have to be with these characters? When you look at Ultraman Geed, it feels like everyone interacts with each other and everything flows a lot better in terms of character interaction. At least that's just for me personally. Maybe that's just my little dumb opinion about what I thought about the characters. I like the soundtrack a lot. I think the show, again, is visually impressive. I can't stretch that enough. I like a lot of Ultraman Gate's powers. I like the fusions that they came up with, Ultraman and Ultraman Belial. It's always a pleasure to see the original Ultraman for me. And Ultra 7 and Ultraman Leo form the solid burning, which is a really nice form. People said that it looks too robotic. I'm gonna mention Masura for Deadwa. He said that it looks like a robot. And then Lightning Slugger X17, aka Wallpaper Ultra 16, he stated that it looked like Gypsy Danger from Pacific Rim because they both have the rocket punch. So I can understand where people are coming from, but then when I look at Lightning Attacker, he looks very robotic. So at this point, I don't really mind personally. I just kind of like Solid Burning. And then you have Acro Smasher, which really feels like primitive but just painted blue. I mean, that's just me at least. It's pretty much Hikari and Cosmos combined. And I think that's pretty cool because I know a lot of people like Hikari. I mean, I like Hikari too, but I'm just not really the huge fan like other people are. I don't know why. I guess I never really got into him that much. I mean, I think it's a great Ultra, but I'm just not really like the diehard fan of Hikari. And, I feel like Ultraman Geet, it has that classic Ultraman charm where it makes me want to do all the poses. Like, for example, when, again, the soundtrack really enables it. Whenever Riku pulls out his capsule, he's like, I go. I mean, she's like, you go, I go, here we go. It's like the Ultras do, like, their poses. It's like Ultraman, he does his pose, he's like, shut! And I just feel like raising my arm up in the air because I'm like, yeah, it's the original Ultraman. And he pulls out Belly, he was like, yeah! And then he does the solid burning Fusion Rise, where it's like 7 is like, yeah, it's Ultra 7, 50th anniversary, it feels so good. And then you saw Ultraman Leo was pretty much 7's pupil, and he's like, yeah! So yeah, I really feel like Ultraman Geet always gets me hyped to see the transformations. I know Ultraman Orb did, but I feel like what I feel like the Ultra shows do best is make me feel really enthusiastic. Like, even though there are some aspects that I noticed that I talked about in this video that I didn't like about Ultraman Geed still manages to keep me enthusiastic for what it has to come just because of how exciting it is for me. Because I get to feel like a little kid. Because I remember when I was a little kid, I used to always do like the little Ultraman poses. Well, not really a little kid. That was actually quite a few years ago. I probably saw the series in 2010, so not that long ago. But I just remember when I was younger, I used to like doing the little Ultraman pose where he has his arms stretched out. So I feel like Ultraman Geet still manages to keep in touch with me even though I'm much older now, which is great because I get to feel like I'm the Ultra character, and it's really all about imagination and such, I guess, as people say. I don't even know what I'm saying at this point. This is really miscellaneous talking right here. This is at the point where I just really ramble on because I'm so desperate to say something. Real quick about Ultraman Geet, I haven't seen any of the episodes really in English subtitles, so I'm probably gonna have to see them real quick. But I know Ultraman Geet has this concept where there are certain human characters where they have this light within them, and they pretty much give Ultraman Geet the new capsule of the week, which I think is a pretty interesting concept. I mean, I guess it makes the human characters more relevant, but I just don't really see the purpose in the characters because they're just one-time characters. Like, one time you see like a human character gain the light energy within their spirit, and then they give Ultraman Geet the new capsule of the week, and then most likely you're never going to see them again. So I just feel like that feels pretty pointless to me. But yeah, that's just something that I feel was that's a really minor thing. It's something that I never really paid attention to. And then something that I also didn't like was Dada. Dada is honestly one of my favorite aliens from the original Ultraman. I know a lot of other people like Dada, and I really feel ashamed that Dada didn't get to turn giant. However, I am somewhat glad that he turned giant in Ultraman X. That's something that I was glad about. But yeah, overall, I'm just hoping to see what Geed has in store for future episodes. I definitely hope, I have my fingers crossed that they bring back Gyarados or Alien Parolinga. Like, those are the two beings that I want to see from Ultra 7, or maybe just another Ultra 7 kaiju. Just surprise me, Subaroi Productions. Bring someone back from Ultra 7, like Alien Godola, or someone that I would least expect, and then I'm instantly hooked right there, like 10 out of 10 Ultraman Geed for bringing back my nostalgic kaiju after all these years since 2014 of waiting. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video, like, comment, share, subscribe. I'm probably missing a lot of things that I wanted to say, but you guys can just comment down below or even make your own response videos. That'll be pretty neat too. Yeah, but anyway, this is Alex Kaiju Fan signing out. See you all.